Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Welcome back to another Ninja Coaching Spotlight. I am so excited to have two of the amazing ninjas with us today. One that I have known for many years. One that's been in my world for many years, but I've never had a chance to meet her. And so this is going to be an exciting time. Susan Savings is our ninja that we're going to spotlight today. She's from Kansas City, Missouri with ReeceNichols. And let's just jump right into this. Susan, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so grateful that you're with us today. Getting ready for this has been really a fun thing for me. Susan, there's a handful of people out there that will come to me and say, I took Ninja originally from your dad. And those people have a little special spot in my heart. And so, Susan, I was so grateful when you mentioned that because you've been around Ninja for a handful of years.
I have. Yes. Your dad introduced me to the Ninja concept.
2001. Is that correct?
Yes.
My goodness. Well, and then we're also joined by your amazing coach, Gretchen Adams. Gretchen, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thanks for having me. And Susan.
Well, I'm grateful to have you on here. Your energy is always so incredible. You bring so much value. So this will be great to share this time with you also. And good morning, Matt, as well.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Well, let's jump right into this because, a lot of the people that we choose to spotlight are brought to me by our coaches. Well, they'll talk about, we have somebody that we really need to show their path and their journey along Ninja. And then how they kind of ended up and coming and looking for coaching. And Gretchen, a while back here, got a hold of me and said, you need to talk to Susan. And I said, great, got Susan on my list. And then Gretchen circled back around and said, no, we really need to talk to Susan. And I said, I know, I got it. We're going to do it. And then she came back again. I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, okay, we're going to do this. So Susan, I'm so grateful again for the time that we're going to spend together. So 2001, you got into Ninja and you embraced this. I mean, this is not something that you just experienced that one time or okay, great, that's Ninja. Like you leaned into this not only, back then you leaned into real estate. So let's talk back then. How did you use Ninja in your personal real estate back then? Because you're a manager now.
In my personal real estate, the one thing that I love about Ninja is that it basically is just be a good human and reach your people. And so that's the way that I embraced it. And then it just set me up with good systems to have to be in contact with my clients and stay focused and focus on their needs and what they're needing.
ReeceNichols is an incredible company, and I feel like we can't brush over that. They embraced Ninja early on. I mean, I think back to, again, I've been in this for many years back, almost basically, we've been in this about the same amount of time of understanding and knowing Ninja. You have this office of ReeceNichols, and they went all in early back then. So, I mean, you really got a great exposure to Ninja right up front. I loved how you said it's just about being a good human being.
Yes. And that's one of the things that I love about the company is that they do embrace Ninja. And I think that, they brought your dad in to Kansas City to talk with us and teach classes when he was doing the merge into the Ninja. So he was teaching the concepts and they were still working on the Ninja concept.
So what did Ninja do for you back then with your business? I mean, obviously being a good human being, but I mean, you didn't let Ninja go. You obviously, adapted it into your business. And how did it work for you in your business through those years?
It kept me more organized. And the one thing that I remember the most about your dad is teaching us the pie time. And that was really important to really figure out because, there's so many moving wheels in this business that sometimes we get wrapped up in cleaning up our desk instead of making the phone calls.
I love that back in those days, my dad, the concept of pie time is one of those things that he latched onto and ran with it in a way that anybody who knows my dad back then was like, oh yeah, Walt and pie time. My goodness. Now, as you grew with this, you turned into, you obviously became a manager at ReeceNichols. When did that happen?
So that happened in 2021. And the one thing that I did, I was a successful agent for many years and enjoyed that, but I also wanted to help agents grow and to make their businesses the best that they can. And so that was one of the reasons why I actually contacted Gretchen. So I know I've been to many installations. I've been to 4. I've been to Fort Collins and had it done the Ninja with Larry Kendall. And so it's not that I flunked it 4 times. It's that I wanted to get better 4 times. So that was the reason that I continued to do it. And with Gretchen, when I went into the coaching aspect, I'm later in my career and I didn't feel like I had the time to do the learning curve of all the mistakes that happen. And so she's really helped me stay on focus and get myself organized and better manager Ninja way.
Well, Gretchen, let's bring you into the fold here, because obviously this is when you were pulled in. And I loved how Susan said it is like, I'm at a point where I this isn't about making mistakes and figuring things out. I really just needed to have a good plan, and brought you in because Susan, you didn't share it yet, but you had a goal of being number 1 in ReeceNichols as an office. Is that correct?
Yes.
How many offices are there?
There are 18 in the Kansas City area.
Aha. Gretchen, welcome.
Hi.
What's been your experience of working with Susan? Because you came to me so excited going, this is somebody we need to talk about. And obviously you've been on this journey with her as she has been, pushing to be the best manager and have the best office that she can have.
Yeah. One of the main reasons why I was so excited is that she's in a leadership role, and we don't spotlight too many leadership roles too often, just because we have more ninjas that are in the agent role. So it was exciting to me to do something a little bit different, if you will, with her. And it really was just coming up with a plan, an everyday plan. For those that know me, I'm big on modeled behavior. And so we talk about that a lot. Like, Susan, if you get in flow with your agents, then it helps your agents get in flow with their clients. So we did a lot of matching and marrying of those things so that she could inspire her agents. The other thing that we did is boundaries, help to create boundaries and healthy boundaries. And it's okay to have these hours. And here's the boundaries that you need to have with your agents. And again, it's modeled behavior that then they'll have boundaries within their own business.
This is all great. And Susan, I'm so happy that you're taking Ninja into this role, because I see the manager space in the real estate industry as a whole as one of the biggest gaps, biggest vacuums that there is in real estate. And it's such an important role. And I'm excited that obviously ReeceNichols values that, is why you're there. So when you moved into a non-competing manager, because you don't list and sell real estate anymore
Correct.
as a manager, what were some of the most valuable Ninja skills that you brought with you into your manager role that you are implementing on a regular basis so that you can show up for your best versus just saying, hey, agents, you need to do your Ninja 9. Obviously, you're doing your version of that too.
Right. And that was probably one of the biggest challenges, because anybody that's in the business knows that it's really easy to be reactive to situations. And so that's kind of how my business was headed, was that I was just reacting to all of the issues that were happening. And so Gretchen helped me focus in on changing my mindset to the clients. My new clients are the agents. And so instead of, I was trying to get classes and not lesson plans, but sales meetings and things organized, which is in the selling aspect, your buyers consultations and your listing presentations. But I wasn't focusing on the agents, and the agents were my clients now. So that was one of the mindsets that Gretchen helped me through.
You had to reformulate your pie time here a little bit, huh?
Yes. It's an all around pie time, because when I was selling it, like my Monday morning agenda, I would do on Monday mornings. Well, when I got into managing, Monday mornings were chaotic and I wasn't doing my agendas at all. And when you don't do your agendas, then everything slips. And so then we figured out that the best time for me to do those agendas is on Friday afternoons. And so I just reflect on the week that I had, and then what's going to happen the next week, because that's when it's calmer at the office. So I had to refigure out the whole system.
So now I'm curious here, because I look at the marketplace and the world that we're in right now as it comes around brokerages and how we're taking care of agents. And I mean, the whole picture right now is kind of being put under a microscope. And I look at like your office and how you had to change your mindset to these agents are my clients now. And I think it's something that a lot of brokerages don't figure out till it's too late. They don't realize that they need to be taking care of their agents in that way. If you had to look at your office and say kind of like the most important systems that you do on a daily and a weekly basis to make sure that you are treating them like your clients and you're taking care of them, what would you say that looks like?
Well, it would be the same thing that agents would do as your live interviews. And it's your Ford conversations. So it's not just running through and saying, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? You really got to dig deep and find out information.
It's not also, how's that sale going over on 123 Mulberry Lane either, right?
Correct. It's how was the softball game last weekend? I saw that you were in a tournament.
Awesome. So do you try to keep the same numbers on the managing side when you look at, like, we talk about 50 live contacts? Or do you try to do the same numbers? But because you've got a big office, you shared this with us. We haven't shared it yet. You have 150 agents that you manage.
Yes. I do try to keep the same number, but it's hard because, well, it's not hard to talk to 50 people, but it's hard to have 50 Ford conversations with people. But I even changed my mindset when I have guest speakers at sales meetings. So right now we're doing a series where we have 6 school districts. And so all 6 superintendents are coming to our sales meetings and sharing with us what is happening in the school district. So as the agents are touring with clients, they can share things that they've learned about the school district. So when the superintendent comes, then I do Ford conversations with them before they get started. And it makes the whole office appreciate them more, because we learned that this superintendent's wife is a teacher over here, and somebody had a connection with that. So
I love it. It's not just
That's a great idea.
not just the facts of who they are. You get to get into the meat, opens them up a little more as a person, huh?
right.
That's great.
Gretchen, let me ask you a question. As you've seen Susan develop as a manager over the years, what have you seen as it relates to Ninja systems that a manager applies, right? What are the things that you've seen really kind of create good success for Susan? Because obviously Susan's results are driven by the performance of her agent. And so when you think about a manager, a lot of people think, well, we'll just look at what the agents do, and we don't really think about the connection of what is the manager doing to help inspire that. So what have you seen as kind of some of the best activities or habits or routines that Susan's been building over the years to help her office be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that I want to say before I answer that question is that Susan shows up and she's coachable. So I think that that's really important to bring into the conversation, that she's willing to try and she's willing to fail. So the first one she already mentioned is mindset. We did a lot of work with mindset. We did a lot of work with, hey, every agent is not meant for your office, and that's okay. When someone leaves, it's okay. Because it's just it's the same thing when an agent loses a client. Well, why? So we did a lot of mindset work. The other thing that I want to connect to something that she was saying is a ninja is I asked her, how did you categorize, or how have you categorized your agents in your office? So as agents, we're categorizing them, A, B, C. Some people might have D. And I said, we need to do the same thing with the agents in your office. And we did it in a couple of ways. One, I had her do it relationship wise. Who do you really know? Who do you really need to get to know? And then do it in a way of production, because her goal is to have high per person productivity and not have low hanging fruit where there's people hanging around that don't sell. So she wants like-minded people. So those 2 things right there are really important. She's very, 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 very consistent with her weekly meeting agenda. And it's not that she's consistent, that she sends it to me, she does, but her mindset around it is, I have to have this meeting with myself every week because I need to reflect what happened last week and what am I doing this week. And I think that that's one of those things that when we say success leaves clues, that's one of them. She just shows up to do that. So those are a couple of things that I noticed with her. It's mindset. It's staying consistent. Does she fall off the wagon? Absolutely. We all do. But she's willing to get back on, and she's willing to show up and say, okay, I made this commitment. It didn't happen. So now we really got to hold my feet to the fire because I've got to get this done.
Yeah.
So she's willing to do that.
I love that because so many managers feel like they're firefighters, right? Where they kind of just wait for the problem to happen and then they go, not a dig at firefighters at all. They're training and getting ready for that stuff. But, a good manager like you, Susan, you're working the productivity side. So Gretchen mentioned per agent productivity. What have you seen in how you're directing or guiding your agents to help them increase that per agent productivity? What does it look like when you're talking to an agent or talking to your office as a whole to kind of make sure they're focused on the right things so that result happens for you?
As you know, there's many different levels to a real estate agent, and their goals are all different. And so that's one of the things that I try to look at and meet with the agents to see where they want to be and where they want their success and what success looks like to them and what their why is, so that then I can help them.
Love that.
Well, you'd mentioned, I've just been scribbling notes here and waiting for my turn to ask questions. You'd mentioned not every agent. Gretchen, you mentioned this, and Susan, I want to talk to you about this also, is that not every agent's your agent. And I think with, at a certain point, always with people that we coach who are on the selling side or the actual buyers and sellers out there, they have a hard time understanding that not every client's their client, though. They have a mindset always of like, well, everybody is, I just got to take as many listings as I can, work with as many buyers as I can. And that's a really interesting piece, Gretchen, that you shared, is that, getting Susan to understand that it's okay that not every agent is our agent. And because you can get in this mindset of just fill the seats, make sure the seats are filled. An empty desk is a wasted desk, like get more people in the door. And it's okay to let people go. How was it crossing that threshold of a mindset of like, it's okay that these people, some of them aren't our agents? How was that?
Well, Garrett, we're not 100% there yet.
Well, it's a dream, and also at the same time.
It's always a work in progress at a real estate brokerage.
I'm a peace person, so that part is harder for me, but we're working through that.
I love it. Okay, Gretchen, things to work on, mindset, eliminate the peace No, don't eliminate the peace mentality. It's needed.
Well, I mean, it's just like, one of the things that I say to her is, okay, so we've got this one person that didn't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about 5 that do.
Yeah.
And get the energy around the ones that are there and focus on them. And that usually helps to eliminate that. Oh, well, why don't they want to be here? Why didn't they stay? It's just like at things that we all do. We have a tendency to focus on that one negative thing when she's got 149 other positive things sitting in her office. So it's hard.
A lot of it's ego, because when someone doesn't want to be there, you take it personally, and you can't, because, if you look at it truly, it's not about me. So I want what's best for them, and I want what's best for our office.
Well, Susan, the other note I have here is talking about the high productivity per agent. And, it's, in the real estate world, again, when I'm working with an individual agent, I will say, one of the best things you have is results. And if your results stink, with getting a seller to get to the finish line of having their property sold or helping a buyer actually win and be able to win the offers and be able to get the houses they want, if you don't have the track record to show, at some point when the market changes, like, you're going to need those numbers to be like, look, we're different than everybody else. We're a different breed over here in how we work and how we handle this market. Offices are no different. And when you've got a whole bunch of players and you've helped them all have a really high production, other agents in town notice that. I love that goal. And How long have you held on to that mindset of like, let's bring a lot of high producers together, or at least players together? I've always liked the word players.
It's always been my goal because I feel like we, especially coming off of COVID, we went from everybody staying at home and nobody coming into the office, which we all thought was great until we realized that we were people and we needed to be around. And so that's one of the things that I feel like we're getting back to. And so by having a larger office that is producing high, then it does attract the community because they see that. And the other agents, just having a sales meeting that you have 60 people that come to the sales meeting to share what's happening in the market. We're sharing stats on live stats on how many contracts were written this week and how many were over list price and under list price and at list price and how many were taking them as is. Those are real life stats that we're seeing a real live market change. And so by having the high productivity, people are seeing that and then they can adjust to the market.
I love it. And there's a number you just threw out here, 60 people at your sales meeting. And now I know you have 150 people in the office, but there's a lot of managing brokers out there that are going, if I could just get 10 people to show up to the sales meeting, that would be amazing right now. What do you do to create an environment that 60 people want to show up at? Because you don't seem like the person being the peace personality that says show up or else, because I told you we have a sales meeting, you better be here. Like, what do you do to create an environment that makes 60 want to show up? I think it's great.
Honestly, I don't know. But, I think I'm lucky, but I also really try to focus on bringing value. And when the agents see value, then they will show up. And so even if, the one thing that they're loving the most is that I'm going through every contract that's written each week to give them those real live stats. And so even if they're just coming for that 3-minute conversation, they're getting some value.
Well, and one of the things that she's done that she's not mentioning is something she mentioned in the beginning, which is always having a plan. And so planning 3 months out for meetings, so she's not frenetically running around going, oh my gosh, what's my meeting going to be next week? She's got it planned out. Okay, this is what we're going to do. And this is what we're going to do for the next 3 months. This is who I need to make sure they can be there for a speaker. And this is the theme that we're going to have for the month or whatever it is. So a lot of it is planning so that's also the antidote to her being reactive. The more things that she can put into place and be proactive, proactivity is a habit. So helping her to be more proactive with all the things that she does. So there's a lot of energy around it because you know what you're planning to do at your meetings.
I find a lot of sales meetings are successful and people show up when the people that need to show up for the sales meeting realize the person that's putting it on really cares.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a sales meeting. It's not just check the box, got the sales meeting done this week. And it sounds like with all the planning you put into it and me learning more and more, Susan, of who you are, your agent probably realize you really care. Add in on top all of your forward conversations and taking the time to build the strong relationships around the office. There's probably, when you said, I'm not really sure it's luck, there's probably a lot of pieces that cause that to happen.
Well, Gary, you taught me the acronym on luck is laboring under correct knowledge. And it certainly sounds like that's what you're doing, Susan. So maybe you are getting lucky because you're putting in all the right work to make it happen with the planning. And Gretchen, I wanted to ask you too, in watching Susan, because you've been around a lot of management in this industry with the different roles that you've had in real estate. What are the elements that really make a ninja manager stand apart from just a regular, maybe even a good manager who may not be a quote ninja manager, but there is something special about running a ninja system as a manager. So what do you see as those differences that Susan's applying?
I think it's already been said. She cares. It matters how you make people feel. That's very high priority for her. When she's in live flow with her agents, she's also listening for change. When you start to notice that people are having a hard time at home or maybe having a hard time with business and they're experiencing change, a lot of times that's something we need to pay attention to because they might be looking to go somewhere else. So maybe they need some extra attention and she needs to dive a little more into the Ford. It's showing up. It's the energy that you provide. It's really just showing them that you care is the number one thing. I don't think there's any kind of magic pill there or, and then how can she help them get to where they want to be? I mean, really at the end of the day, she's in a leadership role and a coaching role. We talk a lot about that. Like, let's talk about some coaching skills for your clients who are your agents. That's really what they need. So what are the things we can do?
Well, I think that's a huge highlight is that she's not just managing 150 agents. Susan, you're coaching those agents, right?
Yeah.
So Susan, do you have a system that helps you, like when Gretchen's talking about you have this Ford conversation, you learn something going on with an agent, like how do you manage all those names and people? I mean, there's 150 people in your office. It's hard enough managing 150 people in a database as an agent, but we look at these people as your clients, they're all active clients. Like they're all listed properties. You have like 150 listings at one time. So how do you keep track of all of that stuff?
Well, it's the same thing that I tell the agents is that anytime you have a conversation with someone, when you're done with that conversation, you need to have a plan of what your next step is going to be with them. And you can't just think it because you'll forget it. You have to write it down.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. So where do you have do you keep notes on, and I know this is getting technical, but do you write notes on your phone or
notes everywhere?
A spreadsheet or?
I can show you my weekly agenda is right here on a clipboard. I don't do it digitally and I write a lot of my notes there. And then when I am going to that meeting, then I put them in my database.
I love that.
I love that you just held up your clipboard. If I could count out of all the people that I've watched, been like, man, they are just crushing it in anything that they're doing. Very rarely will I look back to a computer system piece of software where they keep notes, keep data, keep track of things. Almost always it is to a clipboard. It's a Monday morning agenda that's been scribbled all over, written on the backside. There's something powerful about the pen. I'm a pencil person. It just slows me down. I get all crazy with the ballpoint pen. I don't know what happens. There's something that just taking that time of making it real, Susan, I thank you so much for holding up that clipboard.
Well, and the other thing that I do with it is I keep my month's worth of agendas on there. And then at the end of the month, I do scan them into Dropbox and then store them in a month so that I can go back and reread them, because I do go back and review my notes, because I think that helps me a lot to go, oh, yes, I remember what I did when this happened. And, I really need to focus on this.
I love it.
We use a concept called, this is Gretchen approved, forward, and record. It's not Ninja approved, it's Gretchen approved. Forward, and record. So as she's forwarding, the action item is every person has an action item. So they're either getting a handwritten note, they're getting a text message the next week. She's forwarding it into the future and putting it into those next pages as when's the next time that she's going to get a hold of that person. And so she's making it it's really just simple. Let's not put too much thought into it. Let's put it out into the future. And then when it gets there, it's like, oh, that's right. I've got to follow up with Sally because Sally was going through this. I want to make sure that that's going okay.
So when you do your Monday morning agenda, that all then gets on the calendar.
Yeah.
It must be luck, Matt. It's probably luck.
So simple, but we make it hard.
Amazing. Super simple. Yes, but it's probably luck that everybody's doing so well, right? I mean, it couldn't be any of these things that you're doing that's really well organized. I love it.
Now, Susan, in getting to know you, and I don't want to brush over this, when I got the chance to first talk to you, obviously you and Gretchen have built a really strong relationship. And I got a hold of Gretchen afterwards. I'm like, she really likes you. She's like, oh yeah, we have a lot of fun together. I think it's one of the most powerful things when you find the right coaching relationship. Mm-hmm. And I just want to direct some of this energy to Gretchen for a second. What's it been like having Gretchen as a coach? Because she's all in with anybody, anything she does, she's all in. And I know that with her coaching clients, she gives that to you. What has it been like having Gretchen as a coach?
It has been incredible because she brings such a value to me when we talk about things that are happening in the office. I feel like I was soft when I would say something and she was like, "Oh, you were a little harsh. You could have said it this way." And I thought, well, she's actually really right. I was. And she also calls me out on it. So on stuff. So a lot of times I get into the habit of cleaning my desk instead of making phone calls. And she calls me out on it and says, "You're thinking too much about that. You need to just do it."
I love it.
Amazing.
And you made another comment to me when we were kind of getting ready for this. And you said, you had that thought in your mind, like, here's what you've accomplished since bringing Gretchen in and having Ninja coaching. And you made a comment of like, one, I don't have time to make mistakes, which we've already mentioned. Like, I need to make sure I'm doing this right. But there's also that thought of, what if I would have done this sooner? What if I would have had a coach earlier on? Do you want to like elaborate on that a little bit more for me?
So I was what I consider for me a successful agent, one of the top agents in the company before, and I was following the Ninja path all through my career. And I did the mastery, but I didn't feel like I really needed to have a coach, didn't want to spend the money for it. But now that I did it because I'm at the end of towards the end of my career, I'm not at the end of my career, but I didn't have time for mistakes. I thought, man, if I would have done this 20 years ago and had a coach that set me straight and guided me and helped me get my life organized, because not only is it getting my business organized, she helped me get my life organized with it too. And if I had done this 20 years ago, it would have been amazing.
So Gretchen and Matt, is that the first time we've ever heard that? I wish I would have brought this in earlier into my world.
Definitely not. I think I said that to you too, Garrett, when you were coaching me. So that's a big part of it.
Well, is there anything we've left off the table? I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here. Is there anything that, Susan, you want to share, Gretchen, that you want to share before we put a bow on this?
Well, the only thing that I would share is, Gretchen we've been a perfect match. I feel like she's helped me so much. But a lot of the things that I have implemented and talked about as a manager are just as easy as an agent to encompass in your business. And I was reading an email from Gino Blafari, who's the CEO of Home Services, this morning. And he said, if it's important to you, you're going to find a way. If it's not important to you, you'll find an excuse. And I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, that's so...
yeah, that's exactly right. I love it. Gretchen, did you have one more thing you wanted to add?
I did one. I just wanted to thank Susan for her kind compliments. That's very nice. And I appreciate you. And I appreciate our relationship. And I appreciate the fact that you show up. You're not looking for a magic pill. You are really looking to do the work. And that's a big difference. So it's fun to coach someone in a leadership capacity. I don't really ever look at you as a manager. I see you as a leader.
Okay.
And how you lead your people. And you've done a lot of really, really great things with your office.
Yes.
You've gone through a lot with your office, but you just keep pushing forward, making it better.
Susan, let me ask you one last question too. If you had to share a piece of advice or maybe two pieces of advice, because not every agent out there has a manager like you, right? And they may not have access to a manager like you. And maybe they have a good manager in another way. What would you tell an agent who wants to be on the path, stay on the path? How can they maybe help lean into their manager to have the support perhaps that you give your agents?
I would just suggest that they stay involved in the whole Ninja community. I mean, from 20 years ago when Walt and Larry were just coming up with the concept to all of the things that are available now, the podcast, the book, the Facebook page. The Facebook page is incredible. Probably one of my favorite things about Ninja because there's so much good information. Do the mastery, go to installations, and get a coach if you can do it. And you're really wanting to make a difference, but you need to be coachable. You need to be open.
That's true.
That whole coachable thing. It's no joke. You got to be willing. And Gretchen, you said it, which I think is so wonderful, is that as Susan shows up to do the work, she doesn't expect you to do the work. She is open to the ideas and the thoughts and the concepts, but then willing to walk away and do the work. And it makes for a very successful relationship.
Yeah.
Well, my goodness, I've appreciated this so much because we do coach lots of real estate agents, and that's where a lot of people come into our world is looking from a real estate agent to a coach relationship. We also do coach a lot of leaders, and we coach a lot of managers of offices. We just haven't had them on this platform yet. So Susan, you are setting the pace here, and I appreciate you sharing your time. Gretchen, I appreciate you sharing your time and your energy that you've been working with Susan here and who you are as a person. And I'm grateful for everybody that is able to come on and do these spotlights and be vulnerable for a little bit and put it all on the table. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I know we'll be talking more in the future. Matt, thank you as always for hosting this with me. If anybody wants to know more about Ninja Coaching, go to ninjaselling.com. Look at the coaching tab there. You will find everything about us. You will find Gretchen. She's in there, as well as a whole bunch of other great coaches. And Susan, one last thank you. I really appreciate you being on with us.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you, Susan. And thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you all listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.